Welcome to the Successful Thinking Podcast, where I will share with you the elements for a successful thinking process, and we will talk to people who have a successful thinking mindset.
Hello, welcome back to the Successful Thinking Podcast. Today I have with me a very interesting and amazing woman. She's a published author and artist that produced work focused on advocating for social justice. She has worked with many organizations such as the UN, Adobe and Google, and their work has featured in the New York Times and the BBC. She's amazing. She's Maliha Abidi. Hello, Maliha. How are you? Welcome to Lisbon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm actually very good. Good to be back at my own country.
Great.
Here for the Web Summit, so super excited. And once again, thank you for accepting and to being here today with me. So for those that don't know you, can you briefly explain who you are, what do you do, and where you come from?
Yeah. So my name is Maliha Abidi. Let's start there. I'm an artist and an author. I'm originally from Pakistan, and I moved to the US when I was 14, so an immigrant to US. And yeah, I create art focused on social justice, topics that move me, topics that I want to process through my art. And I'm also the founder of Women Rise NFT, which is like my gateway into the Web3 space, and we have an amazing like-minded community. And I have an incredible team that's really hardworking. So, yeah, that's me.
Okay, perfect. So let's start there with the Women Rise NFT. I think most of people are already familiar that is for non-fungible token and what it is about. But so that collection is made of 10,000 generated and unique NFT pieces, and is celebrating, like you said, and representing women scientists, activists, artists, coders. Much more. And by the way, I went to the website. It's sold out, so congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So why NFTs? And how was Women Rise born?
Yeah, so with NFTs or digital collectibles in general, I learned about it through my husband in early 2021. Okay. And at the time I was finishing my second book, so he was like, have you heard about NFTs? Do you want to learn more about it? And I was like, no, I don't have time for that. Because I completely dismissed the idea because firstly, I was so busy completing a project. And then also because it was something completely new, right? So it was I knew that I would have to just take out some time and space to understand this new concept. And I was like, I don't want to do it right now. Yeah, that was my first kind of introduction to it. But then around the summertime, he started the conversation again, and we started to educate ourselves more about it, learn more about the space. That's when I started reusing my Twitter as well, even though I've had Twitter accounts since 2013. So I had to remove all the spider webs from my Twitter accounts because nobody was using it. Yeah, so that's kind of how I got introduced to the NFT space and started in it. And I really like the concept of this intersection of art and technology coming together. And Women Rise is, of course, an art-focused project with the soul the same as my other work. That is focused on storytelling through art, processing things through art, talking about social justice through art. And then that became my way of expanding into the NFT space and Web3 space. And why NFTs in general? Because why not, right? It's a new space. Historically, I think when you look at tech or business, I haven't personally seen a lot of, just people like myself being given the space in that arena. So I just wanted to take up my space. My team wanted to take their space up, and it's been incredible. And we have an amazing community of like-minded people who are focused on art, social justice, celebrating stories through art, and yeah.
Oh, for me that was amazing. I started to get to know also a little bit about NFTs, maybe a little bit later than you. But that fascinated me, that to bring art into this digital concept was very innovative for the industry and very interesting. But how was your thinking process during the project? How was the name created? How did you decide on the concept elements and all the steps on the roadmap?
Yeah, I mean, it was started by three Pakistanis. So myself, my husband, who was the project manager for Women Rise, and my cousin, who is a software engineer. And so the three of us just got to, discussing and brainstorming. I took care of the creative side and the conceptual side and the art for it. My husband Aski was managing literally everything because as a project manager. My cousin was a developer, and then Aski and I were working on partnerships as well for Women Rise, on Discord, on the community side of things. So there were so many different things that went into it. And to be honest, if we weren't passionate about it, if we weren't passionate about art, if we weren't passionate about if we weren't excited by the Web3 space, I don't think we would be able to put in the same amount of effort, because to me, looking back, it was unreal. It was not all the late nights, sometimes no sleep. It was just unreal amount of effort that went into creating it. And like I said, if it wasn't for the love and passion we have for the project, for the community that we were trying to build at the time, I don't think we would be able to do it. So I think that's really important.
And how do you think, now it made me curious, how do you think was the environment, I don't know, being with a cousin and with a husband? How is that the environment? Because maybe sometimes it's a little bit more tricky, I don't know, you know better the person. How was that process of doing with those people very close to you?
Yeah, I think it was really absolutely amazing. Firstly, that this was, me and my husband, we were very used to doing things together, even traveling wise as well. And he's been a huge supporter of my art in general. So that element of it was incredible, that now officially we're working together, we have this project together, which is amazing. With my cousin, growing up, he used to create different things through coding and stuff, and I've always seen him create small things here and there. So to do this life-changing project with your family, I think it's really special, and I'm really grateful.
Oh, nice. It's good to hear. Because I say this because I have a lot of cousins and brothers, so I can imagine myself with some of them and see the process, how is it. But now stepping a little bit out of Women Rise and looking in general terms, most of your art and work focus indeed on social justice. Such topics as women empowerment, girls' education, domestic violence, refugee crisis, anti-racism, etc. What led you to becoming such an active person talking about these topics?
So when I moved to the US when I was around 14, so I've created art for as long as I can remember. I was very encouraged by my father as well. And I mean, if you remember back to your childhood as well, I'm sure you used to create artwork as well, right? It's a really fun activity. So when I moved to the US, art became my way of dealing with, just kind of dealing with the isolation, the culture shock of it all. I mean, it's a very different country than Pakistan, the United States, so I wanted to just process all of that through art. And a few years down the line, I started to see some issues within the societies within the United States, how Muslims were being treated, or how stories of violence or oppression from marginalized communities were not getting the same kind of attention in the mainstream media. So social media, Facebook, this became my way of creating art in solidarity, but also maybe sometimes just to raise awareness about it. And then slowly from there, I found my true calling of, using my art to educate myself about these issues, educate the community that was slowly growing online, and spreading awareness. I was able to then work with other credible organizations such as the UN, UNHCR, and just contributing as an artist, as a very small part in that project, playing that small part in that campaign, through my art to make sure that I am amplifying these stories, I am supporting, or I am doing my part as an artist.
So when you're approaching these, what challenges do you face and how do you overcome them, or how are you able to go around and get to what you want?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest challenges when you're dealing with such intense topics or intense causes is that it can definitely like impact your mental health, because there are real people and causes and people that you care about, societies that you care about, communities that you have learned about, and obviously like it focuses on human rights as well. It focuses on marginalized groups. So it's sometimes really difficult to just kind of, again, like process all of this and just kind of, yeah, it can take a toll on your mental health, to be honest. But at the end of the day, I tell myself that it's not actually like, sometimes I can't cope with it. It's that simple. Sometimes like I'm unable to cope with it. And then sometimes it's like, how can I use my platform to make sure that I can share a fundraiser, I can share resources, how people can learn more about it, I can share resources about people where people can write about it, and then sometimes it's also about like how can I create something around it to communicate about this issue to other people. So yeah, it's like it's there. These are the kind of things that I go through when I'm creating for a cause that's close to my heart.
Thank you very much for sharing. You mentioned something that for me also got my attention when I was reading and getting to know more about you, which is exactly mental health, which I think it's a topic that should be talked even more nowadays, especially nowadays. I went to check some statistics, and according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the US. I got surprised with these results. Do you think people are uncomfortable to talk about mental health?
I think so, and I mean, I completely understand why, because it's such a personal thing, firstly, but it's also because there's so much stigma around it, right? People don't want to put themselves in these situations where they're exposed or their personal things are exposed, right? Like they don't want this something that's about their mental health to be out there for people to comment on or to know about, and that mainly comes from stigma. I mean, I'd be very open to telling you about, oh, like I have a fever right now, right? Or I have I don't know, like, yeah, I'm like a cough and cold or whatever, versus me sharing about, oh, I have anxiety, or I'm going through this, just because it's more personal and it's more vulnerable, but also because it's not as normalized to talk about these things. Like, we talk about mental health in a very like mysterious way, like it needs to be something that needs to be private, whereas I think, again, like if I were to share about a fever or anything physical, anything related to my physical health, you'd be very open to like being supportive towards that. And I think the society doesn't kind of respond to mental health the same way as we do to physical health.
I talk with some of my friends a lot about this, trying to normalize, even to bring it to the most basic point that maybe people can connect is going to the psychologist. It's maybe the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about mental health. What about going to psychologists? What do you think should be done? And maybe you already answered a little bit, we should normalize these conversations. What do you think should be done for people not to see psychologists, for example, as a need that you can only go when you're sick, but you can go just to help with your mentality?
Yeah, I mean, with mental health, there are so many different aspects to it, right? Like, it depends on what kind of help are you seeking? Are you just looking to talk to somebody to let everything out? Or are you looking for therapy? Are you looking for I don't know, like a more medically focused solution? Like, I'm not really sure that, like there's so many different things that people can be looking at, right? So when it comes to psychologists or psychiatrists, like it definitely depends on case to case. Like, it depends on person to person, right? That what kind of need do you have? But I think there's a saying, prevention is better than cure, right? So I think if you are somebody who is going through something, I think it's better to seek help, whether that's in a friend, whether that's like at school, talking to your counselors at school, talking to a loved teacher, talking to somebody like within your friend circle. I think that can be a very big step in general, rather than, thinking about psychiatrists or psychologists, because that can be overwhelming for a lot of people. And again, it's not affordable for everybody. So there's also that financial aspect. And then there's also the stigma that, I mean, I have seen people who wanted support, wanted to, seek that kind of help, and their families were like, no, we can't, like, what would people say, it will, like, what would be the optics be, right? So all of these different things are play a huge role in people wanting to seek help. But yeah, like I said, prevention is better than cure.
I like the way you look to the question, because I think also you've touched now on a very important aspect. I think maybe the family, how my parents are going to share among their friends that, oh, my son is a psychologist, how does it look like? But also understand that it's case by case, and maybe for some indeed is going to a psychologist, maybe for another one is play sports. It helps you to take the energy, or it's very interesting that indeed is case by case. I'm aware that you founded an organization called Story of Mental Health. It is an intersectional organization focused on the mental health of the marginalized, especially women and youth. Can you talk a little bit about the project and what are your goals?
Yeah, I mean, with the Story of Mental Health, like, my goals with that organization is, again, to use art as a way to campaign for mental health, and to remove stigma. And I mean, removing stigma and normalizing mental health can be as simple as us talking about it. Like, sometimes that's the step we need to take and keep on taking until it's normalized. So this campaigning, this protest, and this activism towards like mental health from all of us can be, just that one conversation that we can have, because we never know like who's really struggling with it. And if, let's say, if you're openly talking about it, about the general concept of mental health, not your own mental health if you don't feel comfortable, but like talking to people about mental health in general, I think it can really give that support to a loved one, a friend, somebody around you. So that's kind of like what we're trying to do with what our goals are with Story of Mental Health. It's still very new, it's still very small, but just conversations using art to talk about various issues focused on women and youth.
Perfect. And these and a little bit in general, art is your way of talking.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit, how does it work for you to use the art as kind of helping in the mental health? What do you think it awakes in your brain when you're painting that kind of helps on this process?
It definitely depends on like what I'm working on. So like art is just like my language, and that's that, right? So whether I'm talking about something like mental health, whether I'm talking about something related to social justice, or whether I'm talking about something that's, something that's fun and joyous, something that brings me joy, that brings other people joy, something that's celebrating a story. All of that I communicate through art, right? So it definitely depends on like what I am creating. Like if I'm focused on a campaign, if I'm focused on a social justice campaign, then my mindset is very different. Then I'm constantly like educating myself. I'm trying to like visualize how best can I communicate about these issues. And then there is also, focus on like colors and bold colors. Like I really try to use really bright and bold colors, and that's my way of, I'm just in general attracted to really bright and bold colors. Like you can't see me right now, but I am wearing red right now. So
my favorite color,
yeah, it's my favorite color as well.
And the glasses as well.
Yeah, I love bright bold colors. So it's also kind of like my way of like, let's see on social media, like bright bold colors attract us, right? So on social media, let's say you see like an image of like focused on social justice, an illustration that I created or a painting that I have created that's focused on a topic that's, you know, that you wouldn't be interested in otherwise, but you see it on social media, it's capturing your attention, and then you're coming for the artwork, and then you're reading the caption, you're learning more about the cause, so, and then you're staying for the cause. So that's kind of like how I try to focus on, how I try to see my art and how I try to approach it.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's really important to see, and that's what I want with also this post, and understand how the thinking process goes behind the things. So what do you think is key for your accomplishments in your thinking process? What do you think was key for you to do all of these way of thinking?
In my career, in my art career, to be honest, this was not planned. Like, a lot of these things were not planned. These collaborations, like, my goal is only to like create art, but in terms of like where my art goes and where it takes me, that's not in my control, if I'm being very honest. It's in control of like a lot of different things, right? I mean, even with Women Rise, I created the artwork and it's an art focused project, but it's where the project is, it's thanks to the community, it's thanks to the team. There are so many people who have like, you know, supported it, so it's thanks to them. It's not like really like I couldn't have imagined or planned it this way either. So I'm very grateful, and I think I am very honest to my art, and I'm really in love with the community that we have built online, whether we're talking about my traditional art community or whether we're talking about my Women Rise community. And I think that's what keeps giving back, I guess.
So you mentioned now honesty. So what are the elements that you think that define your personality, who Maliha is?
I think, I used to think I'm an extrovert, but I think lately, especially after the pandemic, I think I am like, and I'm not maybe an introvert, but maybe like somewhere in between. So that would be one, or maybe like, I think it's called ambivert or something.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be one. Another one would be, I don't know, like I like to travel. So that's I think an element to my life, and that really fuels my creativity as well, traveling. And then I love like food and coffee and stuff, so like, you know, experiencing different cuisines and stuff, so that's kind of like,
so you are in a good place here in Lisbon.
I'm excited about Lisbon. Like yesterday we had like the pudding,
pastel de nata. No,
unfortunately I can't remember the name, but it was so good. It was amazing, and I love the cafes here as well, and it was really beautiful, and the people are so lovely too.
Thank you. So to finish, one last question I always do to all the guests. If you had to think on one word to better define successful thinking, which word would it be and why?
Collaboration. Yeah. Collaboration, because I think we are constantly learning from one another as humans, and there are so many different ways that we can, you know, trade different things, like whether that's good vibes or whether that's like actual collaboration in terms of work. I think that leads to success, and support towards one another as well. So that's also collaboration. So yeah.
Maliha, thank you very much for being here. It was amazing talking to you. I really liked. Thank you very much. And see you guys on my next episode.
Thank you for having me.